From the Oklahoman newsroom, this is an OSU update. I'm Jenny Carlson here with OSU beat writer Nathan Ruiz. Nathan, Monday, Mike Gundy held his weekly press conference, and not a ton of surprises. I don't even think he brought his dog this week, but then right at the end, bombshell news. Jalen McCleskey no longer a Cowboy. Really surprising considering the impact that this guy has had in 3+ years as a Cowboy. What's the story? What's going on here?
Yeah, it's just a situation where he's a guy who's taking advantage of that new redshirt rule that allows players to play in 4 games and still take a redshirt. He played as a true freshman in 2015, is now 6th all-time in OSU history in receptions, 9th in touchdowns, 10th all-time in 100-yard games. So he's a guy who's quietly been a top 10 receiver in program history. Now just a surprising situation. Gundy said that he's a guy who wasn't feeling like he was getting enough touches in this offense and decided to sit out the rest of this year and transfer. We've seen this situation in a couple of other places, notably Auburn has had a few different guys take advantage of this rule and head out. Gundy expressed more frustration with the rule itself rather than McCleskey. He said he understood. He told him they met Monday morning, and Gundy said, I told him, that probably wasn't the best decision, that it was best for him to stay, but he understood it. He would support it. At the same time, he's disappointed now because he only has 84 scholarship players, and there's no way for him to immediately refill that spot. It's especially tough for OSU where there's not a whole lot of depth at inside receiver right now.
Well, let's talk about this from both perspectives, both the player and the team perspective. Jalen McCleskey wants to catch the ball more, and he's going to have to not only sit out this year, but he's going to have to graduate as near as we can tell, right, Nathan?
Yeah, that's the situation. Unless he gets some kind of waiver, he'll have to be a graduate transfer, and I don't think that'll be any issue for him. He's a 4th-year senior. It sounds like he's academically sound, but that is a requirement for him to be able to go through with this.
So he'll have to stay at OSU, finish that degree, and then where he'll go, I guess, is up in the air at this point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's from Louisiana, Covington originally. His dad is currently a defensive backs coach at Tulane, so I think that's maybe a school to watch, maybe LSU. He's a guy where OSU is his only offer, Division I offer, Power 5 offer. So I think now it's maybe a situation where a few different schools will look at him given what he accomplished at OSU. But right now it's anyone's guess as far as what it means for him going forward.
All right, and what about from OSU's perspective? You mentioned the fact that they're now a scholarship short and at a position where they've had some injuries, some different things have happened, obviously lost a great group of seniors from last year. So what's the situation moving forward? There's obviously this redshirt rule can benefit programs, but now we see that players can find a benefit to it too. How does OSU react moving forward on this?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of implications, I think, down the line as far as this redshirt rule goes. Gundy said unless something changes, you probably can make a bet that this will be a yearly occurrence after the 4th game of the season. But as far as OSU's situation, you've got Dylan Stoner as a guy who's really going to have to step up. He dealt with what Mike Gundy called a slight pull at the end of the Texas Tech game, so his status against Kansas is still up in the air. Next guy up would be Landon Wolf, a former walk-on, got a scholarship before this year. A really fast, Taylor Cornelius used the word twitchy to describe him, so he's a guy who I think will see his value increase a lot. But that's a position where beyond that, there's not a whole lot of depth. A guy who maybe you would have looked at was Trayson Wallace, twin brother of Tylan Wallace, OSU's leading receiver. But he's dealing with a right knee injury, probably heading towards surgery, probably would end his season. So there's not a whole lot of depth at that position, and this McCleskey situation only makes things more thin.
You mentioned this maybe becoming an annual thing. Do you think Auburn's had it happen, now OSU, some Power 5 programs. Do you think there could potentially be a move afoot by some of these Power 5s to go to the NCAA and say, we need to restrict this rule to certain guys, maybe first-year guys, second years, I don't know. Is that something that could potentially happen?
I don't know about the actual potential of it. Mike Gundy did suggest it should be limited as far as this execution of the rule to first- and second-year players. The issue becomes, and Gundy brought this up, what if 5 guys had left? Then he's left with 80 scholarship guys, no way to replace them. You look at maybe a different program like a Kansas or a Rutgers that maybe can't supplant that. So it makes situations difficult for programs maybe on the lower tier of Power 5. But in the long run, I think that this is something that's probably best for the players, and that's ultimately what the NCAA is trying to accomplish.
All right, we'll have to see how the Cowboys fare in Game 1 without Jalen McCleskey. Again, a top 10 receiver in a lot of categories all time in OSU history. They head to Kansas on Saturday for an 11 o'clock start. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.